Hey everyone, I'm Summer, and welcome back to my channel where we talk about emotional patterns, mindset shifts, practical tools that help us live and lead with more clarity and intention. And this is a part of my Teach Me Something playlist, conversations that I have with experts who help us understand the hidden mechanics behind the way we think and react and communicate and experience life in general. So today's conversation is about anger and stress and emotional reactions, not from a place of judgment, but from a place of being awareness. Because most people don't actually understand how anger is created or how to stop it before it sometimes takes over. My guest today is the fascinating Dr. Mort Orman. He is a board certified internal medicine physician. He is a leading anger and stress elimination expert with more than 40 years of experience. He has seen a lot of angry people. So, Dr. Orman has written 26 books on eliminating anger and stress and has helped countless individuals improve relationships and reduce emotional reactivity and create healthier communicational patterns. He focuses mostly on helping people understand the internal processes that generate anger and how to interrupt those patterns before they take over your life. So, Dr. Orman, one thing that has really stood out to me in your work is that you describe anger as a process that's happening behind the scenes, not something that
Yes.
appears out of nowhere.
Yes.
So, welcome to my show. And I want to ask you to talk about the 4 steps in anger generation process that you talk about. Can you walk us through what those steps are and why most people remain like completely unaware when that's happening?
Sure. But first, I think it's important to understand what we're talking about here is harmful anger. We're
Mm,
eliminating harmful anger from our lives, the kind of
mm,
anger that can damage our relationships or our health or our kids or cause us to, have career problems or maybe even, get sued or get thrown in jail or, have some legal consequences.
mm,
That kind of anger. If there's anger that's useful and is beneficial to you, we're not talking about eliminating that, but we're talking about being able to eliminate harmful anger, and which is different than managing it.
mm,
Managing anger, you're just dealing with the symptoms. Eliminating it, you have to understand where it's coming from, the root causes, so you can sort
mm,
of turn it off at the source. And that's what I've learned how to do over the last 40 years for
mm,
myself, and then teaching other people once I learned how to do it myself. So
mm,
that's what I really wanted to talk about today. And a lot of people have never, some people tell me they've never even heard the term eliminate anger. Like it's so the concept is not something that most people talk about. Everybody talks
mm,
about managing anger, which I think
mm,
is a shame because it's
mhm,
managing anger is very limited. When you understand how you are internally generating the anger, then you can do something about it. And the first piece of the puzzle is to realize that we've been given this bad model,
mm,
which I call like a 1-2 model. And it's the external causation model. Like we see people doing bad things, we see them doing things that irritate us or anger us, or they take actions or they fail to take actions, whatever. And then we feel the anger. And it looks like that's the whole story, one causing two. So it looks like a 1-2 cause effect process. But that's really misleading because there's actually 4 steps involved.
mm,
It's really a 1, 2, 3, 4, where 1 is the triggering event that we all see, 4 is the anger that we feel inside, and
mm,
there's these 2 other steps, steps 2 and 3, which are invisible. We don't see them, we
mm,
don't feel them, because they're taking place in our brains. And our brains are actually where the anger is being created. It's not coming from the behavior of other people, no matter how bad their behavior may be. If you
mhm,
don't interpret their behavior in certain specific ways, you will not get the emotion of anger. And this is why
mm,
two human beings can be standing side by side, you and a friend, you and a husband, whatever, and you both see the same event,
mm,
exact same external event. One of you gets angry, the other one doesn't. Because the anger, again, it's not being caused by the external event. That's just the trigger. It's
mhm,
the external event combined with the way your brain tells you to look at that external event in very specific ways. That's what generates the anger. It's like a computer program in our brain that if you have those, couple of lines of code, boom, you get the hormones and all the things that cause you to have the anger reaction. And then
mm,
different people will express their anger in different ways. Some may be very quiet about it. Some may, break things and throw things and hit things and, get really crazy,
mm,
enraged in there. So the way we express anger is a whole other thing. But the
mm,
way it gets generated is the same in all of us. And I call it a 1, 2, 3, 4 process, which is what
mm,
most people don't understand. So we have to get rid of this external causation model. That's like the first big myth we have about anger. And realize anger is never caused by the behavior of other people in our life. It's never caused by the behavior of politicians, governments, anything. It's always caused by how our brain tells us to look at those things in very specific ways. And we're not really,
Perception and interpretation.
yes, and we're not really teaching people when we talk about emotional intelligence, which I basically say is not all that intelligent the way it's being currently promoted, is we're not teaching people this one basic concept we just covered here, which is don't blame the outside sources for your anger. Yes, they are triggers, okay, but the real action's happening in your brain that you can't see. It's invisible, and again, you can't feel it, you can't notice it, but it's happening. All right. And then another myth that we have is we've all been taught to believe that our emotions are very complex and mysterious, and there's things hiding underneath them that are called all this kind of. And if you listen to emotional intelligence theories, they're all convoluted and they conflict with each other, and there's multiple explanations and there's multiple theories, and it's just so confusing. You can't do anything with it. You can't use it to say, if I want to stop being angry, can I use that stuff? And then the answer is probably not. But it turns out that emotions are a lot simpler than we've been taught to believe that they are. So really what I discovered 40 years ago is all of our emotions really boil down to, for each emotion, there's like 3 filters that our brain gives us, 3 interpretive filters.
Okay.
For each emotion. So anger has 3, anxiety has 3, guilt has 3, sadness has 3. They all have 3 primary filters that are very easy to understand. You don't have to be a psychiatrist, a psychologist, an emotional intelligence expert. They're very, very simple, and I'll share them with you in just a moment. For anger, and we'll see how easy it is to understand. Anger is very easy to understand how your brain generates it. All right. So there's 3 filters. The first filter is somebody did something bad and wrong that they shouldn't have done. So it's like a negative judgment about somebody's behavior or something. If you get angry at your computer, it's because your computer did something bad or wrong that it shouldn't have done. Okay. Or your car or your cell phone or something like that, or another person in your life. The second filter your brain tells you to look through is that somebody was hurt or harmed or negatively impacted by the bad behavior. All right. And the third one is somebody was unilaterally responsible or primarily responsible or to blame. The person who did the bad and wrong thing is primarily to blame for the hurt and harm or negative impact that happened. So, for example, if you're working on your computer one day and you've just done 2 hours of the most fantastic work you've ever done, you're so proud of it, you're so happy, and all of a sudden your screen goes blank.
Ah,
all right. And you feel like you want to
kind of
punch the computer, all right, and you think you've lost everything that you just did for 2 hours. Why did that? Why did you get angry at your computer when that glitch happened? Well, you got angry at your computer because your brain told you to look at it in these 3 ways. Your brain said that computer did something bad and wrong it shouldn't have done. It shouldn't have malfunctioned like that. And you now have been hurt, harmed, negatively impacted. You may have lost your work. It may be gone forever. You may not be able to recover it, all that kind of stuff. And who was responsible or to blame for the glitch in your computer? It was totally the fault of the computer, right?
Could be, yeah.
Yeah. So when you look at it that way, you get the feeling of anger. And what you'll find is that no matter what the trigger is, no matter what causes us to get angry, we always get angry because of those 3 filters. And this has been going on throughout the history of human civilization for thousands and thousands of years.
Fascinating. Okay.
But nobody has simplified it to the point where you can boil it down to 3 simple, filters or perspectives that's always there. And before we can share with the audience, before we started recording, I asked you to come up with 3 examples from your life. Yeah. I had no idea which 3 you were going to select, but I'm pretty sure that for each of those 3, that framework is going to be the reason why you got angry. So you told me the first one is that you had somebody that had committed to be on your podcast to interview, and time came and they didn't show up. And that you had set the time aside, they wasted your time, and you said, okay, so and you were and you got angry that they didn't show up.
Annoyed, yeah, annoyed and angry.
Annoyed is a mild form of anger. But yeah. And so why did you get angry or why did you get annoyed? Because not showing up when you promised to show up and made a commitment is something bad and wrong you shouldn't do. You were negatively impacted, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the person that didn't show up was totally responsible for their behavior of not showing up.
Yep.
Yep. All three. One, check two, check three. Okay.
Mm.
The second one you told me is you asked your husband to go out and get something from the grocery store. What was it you asked him to get?
I asked him to get black mustard seeds,
What
and
did
he
he come
got me
back? What did he come back with?
black sesame seeds.
Black cess, but there were seeds.
The seeds,
It was
yes.
close. It was close.
Yeah.
And when he
They
came
both
back,
look alike.
and presented you with the sesame seeds and you looked at them, you probably got a little bit annoyed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So why did that happen? Well, your brain told you that he did something bad and wrong he shouldn't have done. He should have gotten the mustard seeds because you clearly told him that's
He
what he
should
was
have
there
read the
to go and
label.
get. Yes.
Yeah.
And he maybe didn't read the labels properly or isn't or whatever happened. And now you're negatively impacted because you didn't get the mustard seeds that you were expecting to get to do
For the
whatever you're
recipe
going to
that I
do
was
with
going to
them.
make. Yes.
Yeah. Now you got to go back and get them again or whatever. All right. And who was responsible for screwing it up?
Him.
Him. Okay, good. All right, that's the second one. And then you said the third one was a more serious one. You said you tell us about that. What was that third example of anger you gave me?
A client got my coaching for a whole year, paid me in full. Once
Hmm.
the year was completed, she decided to go to PayPal and call it a fraudulent transaction and try to get her money back. After she had posted very good 5-star reviews, several places.
Okay. So, did she do something bad and wrong she shouldn't have done?
Absolutely.
Yes. Were you potentially either negatively impacted or potentially negatively impacted? I mean, you were
Very
negatively
much.
impacted and you now have a mess that you've got to resolve one way or the other, whether she ends up getting the money or not. I think you told me she didn't end up getting the money, but you had to go through the ordeal and the emotional upset and the negotiating with PayPal and all the stuff you had to do to, protect your the fact that you provided a good service and you got paid for it. So, but you were negatively impacted, even though you didn't end up losing the money. And who was responsible for deciding to do that? To instigate that fraudulent, complaint to PayPal.
He was.
She was 100%. Okay. So what I want you to see, and we could have done 100 examples, and it would have been the same thing. And believe me, I've done this for 40 years. I did it on myself when I first figured this out, and I tested it out on myself. And every single time, it was these three things. And for the last 40 years, it's always been these three things, nothing but these three things. All right. And this is the framework for understanding human anger that we should be teaching in every school in this country. You shouldn't graduate high school without knowing that A, external events don't cause your emotions, your brain does, and B, exactly how your brain does it. Your brain does it by telling you to look at the situation through these three lenses and believe that they're all true. That's the critical thing here. Your brain wants you to believe they're all true. And if you believe they're all true, you will get the emotion that goes along with that. All right.
Right.
And this is
Yeah.
not just true for anger. It's true the way you get anxious is your brain gives you three stories about whatever it is. And if you believe them, you'll get anxious. All right.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So that's how emotions work. And it's not complicated. You don't need complex theories. You don't need, to know what happened when you were 3 years old and that you got dropped on your head or something like that. You don't, and those things may have happened, but you don't need any of that to understand where your emotions come from. It's your brain's using the same formula over and over and over again. And if you don't believe me, take it from the experts, the people who actually know how to make us angry anytime they want, which is, okay, which is the media. The media. You know that are you aware that anytime the media that's their specialty, making people
angry, yes,
angry or anxious,
aggravating people.
Either one. But anger is a big one. They want to make you angry because it sells stuff and gets clicks and all kinds of stuff. How do they make us angry? They tell us three stories. They tell us somebody did something bad, wrong they shouldn't have done. Because of that, somebody was hurt and harmed and negatively impacted. And the no good so-and-so was totally responsible or to blame. There were no other causes involved. We're the media. We wouldn't lie to you. Everything we told you is the truth. Don't question
Of
it.
course.
That's what they do over and over and over and over. It's the same thing. Our brain, they just feed right in to that same internal mechanism that's already in our brains. That is how we make ourselves, or our brains make us angry. And the interesting thing beyond that, so firstly, that's what we just did here in just a couple of minutes. I just gave you and everybody listening to this Superman-like X-ray vision into what your brain is doing every time you get angry. If you wrote those three things down on an index
mm,
card or a sticky note,
mm,
um, bad and wrong, negative impact, unilateral blame, 6 words,
mm,
all you need to understand human anger
mm,
whenever it occurs in any human being. Whenever you get angry, when your spouse gets angry, your kids get angry, a stranger in the supermarket gets angry.
mm,
I was just at breakfast this morning at one of my favorite restaurants, and there's a waitress there who is the best waitress in the entire place. And she was actually getting ready to take my order, and
mm.
she couldn't take my order because she was crying because she
Oh,
got into an argument with one of her coworkers and the person
mm,
who assigns tables that day. And she felt like she was being unfairly treated by that person. And she was
mm.
so angry, she was ready to throw down her apron and her checkbook to
Resignation
take the
paper.
orders in and quit. That's how
Mm,
angry
mm,
she got.
mm,
And fortunately, we convinced her to stay because she's loved by all of her regular customers, so nobody wanted to see her leave. But it just, again, it's to show you that we get triggered to be angry. She could have quit her job and lost her job or said
mm,
something that she couldn't,
mm,
repair. Fortunately, she didn't. But this is the problem with anger today, and we see it all over the place. We just turn on our TV, turn on social media. You see people getting in fights with other people and getting angry and triggered and doing all kinds of crazy stuff as a response.
mm,
They don't understand where that anger is coming from. They're literally blaming the external events and external behaviors, not realizing that their own brains are telling them stories.
mm,
And a lot of times these stories aren't true, or at least one or more of them aren't true. Some can be true, but a lot of times you need all three of them to be true to get the emotion and to have the emotion keep its power and its intensity.
mm,
If you find that any one of those three stories is false,
mm.
then the whole emotion loses its power over you. And you can literally dissolve the emotion just by recognizing that your brain had lied to you or tricked you. And we've all had that experience. We've all gotten upset at somebody, say somebody, like you say, somebody didn't show up for your podcast, right?
Mm,
And your brain goes, "Oh, they were irresponsible. They should have contacted me. They should have let me know. You know." And you find out later on they were in a car accident and they're in the hospital and they didn't have any way to communicate.
mm,
Now you didn't know that at the time. Your brain made up another story. It made up that they're just a no good so and so. It's an irresponsible human being. Now
mm,
you get this new information, or a car accident, they're in the hospital, they could be in a coma, who knows what, all right? And now you go, oh, okay, well, I'm not angry anymore. Now that I know what happened, and I know that the story my brain gave me was false,
mm.
they weren't being irresponsible, there's nothing to be angry about. It's gone.
What if I validate that? Because somebody that stood me up for a meeting,
Hmm.
um, I reached out to them because, hey, I'm waiting here. Are you going to come in? And they
Hmm.
responded 30 minutes later saying, I fell asleep. I'm so sorry.
Yes. Okay. So your brain is
That would
telling
still
you,
be irresponsible.
well, your brain is telling you that what happened with that person
Mm,
shouldn't have happened. It was bad and wrong. Okay. Now that's really, if you really dig into that and ask yourself, is it
mm,
really true? Has that ever happened to you or something like that?
I can't recall, but perhaps
Perhaps. I mean,
similar. Yeah.
it's the kind of thing that can happen to like
Mm,
anybody. Doesn't
mm,
mean they're a bad person. Doesn't mean they're an irresponsible person. Now, maybe this person has a track record of doing that frequently. That's a different
mm,
story. But we don't know. But the brain is going to tell you that it's absolutely a horrible thing. Means they're a bad person. There's no other explanation that could be more forgiving or more charitable. And a lot of times that's wrong.
mm,
A lot of
mm,
times that's wrong.
mm,
And we don't understand how a lot of times when we get emotional or when we get angry, our brain has tricked us into believing something is true when it isn't really true.
mm. The idea that you gave me of having X-ray vision into our emotional reactions, that's very fascinating
Into
because
the
most
causes, the
people,
actual causes of
exactly.
anger,
Mm, mm,
if you write those 6 words down,
mm,
anytime you want to remember what just happened to you when you got
mm,
angry,
mm,
pull that out until you memorize it. Pull that out and say, my brain told me to look at it this way, and this way, and I did. And I
mm,
believed every one of them was true. I didn't question them. I didn't challenge them.
mm.
And I just went with it. And then I'm upset now. Okay. The,
Yes.
the, the way to get unupset or to not get upset in the first place is to
mm,
realize, wait a second, my brain just tripped. And when you do this, what you do, when I started doing this 40 years ago, it was like the first time I did it, it was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. Didn't realize that that was happening. And then I did it a second time. It's like, oh, wow, that's, it's a different situation, same three stories. Oh, this one's not true. And then I did it a third time. Says, oh,
mm, mm, mm,
when
mm,
you've done it like 100 times, and each of the times, one or more of those three things is turns out not to be true. When
mm.
you get angry the 101st time, all right, whether you know where the flaw is or not, you start to get very suspicious that
Yes, yeah.
your brain has tricked you.
Mm,
And then you
mm,
fish around and then you eventually find where the flaw is or what's missing, what
mm,
information or context or whatever is missing. Um,
mhm,
and then you keep doing it and you keep doing it. You just see almost every time. Now there are times when anger is really justified and you should be angry, when some certain things happen. But
mm,
again, I'd say 90% of the time, when we get triggered, it's anger that's going to be harmful to us in some way, harmful to our family or our relationships or our health. It's going to be the kind of anger we would rather not have, and we hadn't gotten angry. Or if we get angry, we don't want it to linger for even hours, much less
mm,
for
mm,
many people. When I was a teenager, I got angry at my mother one day. It was building. I got angry at my mother for over like a year and a half, where I would
mm,
constantly fight with her and argue with her and get her to change some of her behaviors, which she refused to do. And then one day it was just like she said something and did something, and I said, that's it. I want you out of my life. I don't want
mm,
to talk to you ever again or see you ever
mm,
again.
mm,
And that's what I did for 7 years, even though we lived in the same city a couple miles apart. I
mm,
didn't see my mother or father or talk to them for 7 years. That's how angry I was. So we don't want that. We
mm.
don't want anger that
So is
lingers.
there a difference there between, like, annoyance is a little thing that's
Yeah,
not a big deal, but there's anger and there's
rage.
angst.
There's
Yeah,
rage. There's
there's
full blown
rage.
rage. Yeah.
Mm,
That's just, we're talking about the various forms of expressing anger when you get
mm,
angry. It can be a
mm,
little anger, I'm standing in line, line's not moving fast enough. I'm a little
mm,
annoyed. Or, my husband didn't get the right thing at the supermarket, so I'm a little annoyed.
mm, mm.
Or it could be road rage, or people end up murdering other people. They get so angry.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
the experience or intensity of the anger varies for different people, but it's always coming from the same three stories. The person who
Mm,
shoots somebody dead because they're angry
mm,
really believes they did something horrible. They really hurt or harmed them or someone they cared about,
mm,
and they really were 100% responsible or to blame. Nobody had anything to do with it.
mm,
Okay,
mm.
all right.
Now, three large words, Dr. Mort.
Yes,
There's anger. I think that's an umbrella for all the other little things, like the annoyance is
yes. The whole spectrum of anger has lots of
smallest
different.
thing. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So where do you put short temper and angst? The 7 years that you didn't talk to your mother, would you put that under anger, or is it angst
That's
that
just
just
that
stays
was
in your
that
mind
was
for a long time?
that was anger that built up over a year and a half that finally reached a breaking point, and that's
Mm,
maintained. Once I broke
mm,
relationship with her, I
mm,
maintained that anger for 7 years. Now, it was kind of a smoldering, resentment kind of anger. It wasn't rage or anything like that, but it was just
mhm,
chronic anger. So any
mm,
form of anger can be chronic, and
mm,
we see this a lot in relationships. We in a relationship, it's really easy to disappoint the other person or do things that they resent, and they don't say anything about it, and they kind of carry it around, and then these
mm,
new ones build on top. And after a number of years, somebody goes, "I want a divorce. I can't do this
mm,
anymore." You know,
mm,
there's
mm,
all this little anger, that never got expressed, builds up and builds up.
mm,
And so that's one of the things that one of my goals now that I'm retired from practicing medicine, where my
mm,
goal was to save lives.
mm,
Now I want to save marriages. I want to keep people from getting divorced. People who have been divorced, I want to keep them from getting divorced a second
mm,
time or third, whatever it is,
mm,
because I want them to understand how this works. Because anger comes up so often in our relationships, very
mm.
destructive, and
Yes.
and people don't have this framework for understanding it that would not only help them understand their own anger when they get triggered, but if their partner gets triggered and becomes angry at them, they have X-ray vision now, Superman-like X-ray vision into, oh, they think I did something bad and wrong that I shouldn't have done. I hurt and harmed them or something they're cared about, and
Mm,
they see me as 100% responsible or to blame. But it's interesting in relationships. It's almost never the case that it's 100% zero in terms of responsibility. When you send your husband out to get something at the supermarket and they don't come back, they come back with something different than what you told them to get,
mm.
you probably, whether you were aware of it or not, how you instructed them could have played a role and probably did play a role in what they ended up coming back with.
I could have said, read the label.
Whatever. And we could have done it, whatever, however we did it, we could have done it better. You could have written it down on a piece of paper and given it to them. Say, make sure the label says this, you know, mustard seeds. Take this with you. Okay. You could have done that. Okay. I'm not saying you should have done that because you didn't think
Mm.
that
No, I did. I
it
did.
would be
I did that
misunderstood. Okay.
electronically. I
Yeah.
did that electronically on a shopping list.
Okay. So, but the point is, it's almost never the case. It's our brain will tell us they were 100% responsible. It's totally their fault. I had nothing to do with it.
Mm,
But in truth, if we dig into that a little bit, well, maybe, maybe I played somewhat, or maybe I played a little bit of a role. Sometimes that role expands when you really look at it. Yeah, maybe I didn't quite do it the right way, or maybe I knew from history that he gets things mixed up and I didn't really take the time to really be explicit about it. All kinds of different ways. But the point is that our brain traps us and tricks us into these 100% zero, 100% zero, 100% zero
mm,
frameworks
mm,
for looking at an event, and when we believe it's 100% zero, then we get the emotion. And a lot of times it's not 100% zero in all three of those things. Maybe one of them,
mm,
but not, usually one of them is off somewhere.
mm.
So this is the kind of stuff that we
50,
should be
50.
teaching. And this is why people don't understand. When people say, I can't eliminate my anger, that's impossible.
Mm,
It is impossible if you don't understand these invisible causes. It's like you
mm.
can't win a game if you don't know the rules of the game or how the game's being played.
Correct. Yeah.
You're going to lose every time. All right. But
Yeah.
if somebody enlightens you and says, hey, by the way, do you know these are the rules of the game that have been playing and they're invisible and you didn't see them, but here's what they are. You say, oh, well, now I understand the game. Now I can play better, or I can defend myself or protect myself or better, because now I know what the invisible game is that's going on, the game underneath the game. And that's where we are with emotions today. That's why I say emotional intelligence is not all that
Mm,
intelligent, because it
correct. Yeah.
doesn't give people this roadmap for
Mm,
understanding. It doesn't give them the X-ray vision they need, and then it doesn't teach them how to sort out what's true from what's not true, and argue with their brain and debate their brain when it
mm.
tries to convince them that stuff is really 100% zero when it's usually not.
You are so right. And I know you deal with the anger predominantly, but you also explain that similar internal filtering processes happen for emotions like anxiety and guilt.
Yeah. So what's the first thing our brain does to
Mm,
make us anxious?
mm,
It gives us a story. It gives us a filter. It
mm,
says whatever's going on in the world, something bad is going to happen.
mm,
Tells us that, and it makes us believe it. And you know how many times that we've gotten anxious? Every one of us, because our brain told us something bad was going to happen, and we got real scared, and it turns out it never happened.
it doesn't happen. Yeah.
Doesn't happen. Our brain tricked us.
Mm,
It did.
mm,
A lot of times it'll exaggerate the probability. There are a lot of
mm.
people who are afraid to fly in an airplane. They're afraid they're going to die.
Yeah.
They have no problems getting in their car and driving on the highway.
More chances of
Statistically,
dying.
statistically, the chances are just about the same. You have just about the same chance of dying on the highway in your car as you do in an airplane. But
Mm,
people's brains tell them, "Oh my God, it's an airplane. You're up in the air.
mm,
You have no control." The statistics are almost exactly the same. All
mm,
right, that the probability is actually very close to like 0.00000 something. All
mm.
right. So in either case, you probably the likelihood of dying is very, very, very tiny. But your brain magnifies it and gets you all worked up and gets you anxious.
Mm-hmm. Explain to me this one process that happens in my brain. I have a little problem with balance since my mishap with the COVID shots.
Hmm.
Um, I have a feeling like if I go down the stairs very fast, I will lose my balance. I will fall down. I'll break my neck.
Hmm.
It's an anxiety. It's never
Yes.
happened, but I'm extremely
Yes.
precarious.
Yes. Well, that's a good example because it's a combination of a physical problem.
Mm,
It's something changed in your body as far as your balance. So your balance is
mm,
not as great as it used to be. All
mm,
right. Whatever percentage it's been reduced, I don't know. Okay.
mm,
But now that triggers a whole bunch of brain activity
mm,
in a fear context where all the worst case scenario, this, oh my God, this is going to, don't be careful because you could die and all that kind of stuff. The probability of any of those things happening is not zero. So you can't
mm,
just dismiss it completely. You still have to
mm.
be
Take
responsible and
care.
care and
Yeah.
careful. If you know you have a balance issue, you don't want to fall, you take precautions, but your brain's going to exaggerate it
Mm,
and it's going to make you really nervous when it does that.
mm,
And there are times when you should pay attention to it, when your brain tells you something bad might happen, and there are times when you should say, "Stop bothering me with that crap. It's not likely. You know,
mm,
get away,
mm,
go
mm,
away."
mm. Yeah, you're
I'm
right.
not gonna entertain, that discussion, or I'm not gonna consider it as probable as you are, and still gonna be responsible. I'm gonna take care of myself, but I'm not gonna get all worked up and anxious because you exaggerated some risk here.
Mm, mm,
Perfect
mm.
example. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Orman, this conversation could go on and on because there's not just one or two or three emotions, and you
Yes.
seem to have gone so deep. If you've worked 40 years into especially anger, you have a lot to talk about. And
Yes.
a 20-minute of podcast is not going to serve it very much.
But people can have this podcast can change people's lives if they
It can,
remember
and
those
get in
three
touch with you.
causes. Remember
Hmm.
those three causes, and
Hmm.
you will now, from this point on, you could walk around for the rest of your life with X-ray vision into how human beings' brains create anger for them forever.
X-ray vision, yes.
Yes.
So this conversation should definitely give people something incredibly valuable. I think the realization that emotions are like, especially like anger and stress, they're not inevitable reactions, but we're not so powerless against them.
Well, we get conditioned, the stuff the brain does gets conditioned. So we get triggered and you can't stop the triggering a lot
Mm,
unless you do a lot of work on yourself. You can.
mm,
But
mm,
and in the beginning, you're still going to get triggered. So,
mm,
but you can, once you get triggered, you can go, okay, I know what happened in my brain
mm,
to make me
mm,
feel this way.
mm,
And then that opens a whole new set of doors for how, and particularly in terms of, okay, let me question some of these things. Are
mm,
they all three of them really true? And let me look at each one of them deeply
mm,
and ask myself, to explore them more deeply. And you'll usually find when you do that that there's a flaw in the ointment somewhere, you know,
mm, mm.
or a fly in the ointment, whatever the expression.
Yeah. Thank you super lots for taking
Uh-huh.
it to the process that we can learn to understand and interrupt.
Yes.
You guys, my viewers, if this resonated with you, go connect with Dr. Orman, explore his books, his teachings, his relationship anger cure program. Anger, like he said, it's not a management thing. Anger elimination, when we look at it like this, I think we can go beyond just taking care of what's happening right now and getting rid of
Yes.
it altogether.
It's
You
not to
don't
say
have to be Buddha, right?
it's not to say managing anger is bad. It's just very
Mm,
limited in what it can do. So, but
mm,
the combination of is good if you know how to manage anger and also you know how to turn it off at its source, which is
mm,
your brain.
mhm.
That's the best if you can do both.
Dr. Orman, what's the best place for people to get in touch with you?
People can get in touch with me at my website, which is
Mhm.
DocOrman.com, or they can get a free handout from me at relationshipangercure.com.
And those links, you guys, are right below in the description. So if you enjoyed these Teach Me Something conversations, make sure you like and subscribe and share this episode with somebody who gets angry a lot. They could probably benefit from more peace, more awareness, and emotional clarity in their lives. Dr.
Absolutely.
Orman, thank you super much for being here. I really appreciated having you on my show.
My pleasure. I hope I taught you something.
Absolutely, yes. And you guys, I'll see you in the next one.